I'd love for you to turn to the poem Metaphors. Pause the video if you need to. Have the poem Metaphors in front of you. I'm going to go ahead and read it for you quickly. This is a poem by Sylvia Plath. I am a riddle in 9 syllables, an elephant, a ponderous house, a melon strolling on 2 tendrils. O red fruit, ivory, fine timbers, this loaf's big with its yeasty rising. Money's new minted in this fat purse. I'm a means, a stage, a cow and calf. I've eaten a bag of green apples, boarded the train, there's no getting off. This is a riddle. Sylvia Plath has written a riddle here. There is, I think, a fairly clear answer to who the speaker is in this poem. I'd say go ahead and pause the video, look at it a couple times, see if you can find out who it is. And I'll start again in just a couple seconds. Okay, hopefully you found out who it is. If you didn't, I'm gonna suggest an answer. I'm looking at things like I'm an elephant. I'm seeing something big. I've got this picture of a melon, maybe like a watermelon, strolling on 2 tendrils, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, is this a pregnant woman? See if you can imagine that for a second. Big, big probably around the middle, thin little legs like tendrils, walking on the ground. We see things like a rising belly, like a loaf that is rising. We've got money in a purse. Obviously, there's something valuable inside, which maybe is a baby. A cow and calf is quite literally a pregnant cow. Assuming that this is a pregnant woman, which I think it is, I now want to move one step forward and say, if form is content, then we can start to look at some of these metaphors and suggest what they mean. Before I do that, though, I want to look at an example with you. I want you to imagine this scene. There's a little girl, we'll call her Lucy. She's 4, she's having a birthday party, and she's running around the birthday party. All of these people, her family and friends, have come to see her. She's running around in a little red dress and spinning, and the dress is kind of floating in the wind a little bit, and she's incredibly excited. And one of her family members comes over to her and says, "Hi, Lucy, how are you?" And Lucy's so excited, and then imagine this sentence. She, Lucy, giggled, and her face turned red like... we're using a simile here. We're describing Lucy's face, the color of Lucy's face, with something that's going to be unlike it. Imagine that scene, little girl, maybe she's blonde, little pigtails, and here's my simile. Of course, I can't find my marker. She giggled, and her face turned red like... blood. Is that good? Was that a good simile? I hope you're saying, what? That's not the scene I'm seeing. Lucy's running around, the little red dress. How are you doing? She giggles, and her face turns red like blood. But blood is red, isn't it? What are some other examples of words we could have thrown in there? What's that? Did you say strawberries? Good one. How about apples? Or like a fire truck? Or maybe it turned red like Kool-Aid. Now, these aren't all fantastic examples. They don't all really capture that scene, but I think they all do it a little bit better than blood. Now, I could argue to you that blood, strawberries, apples, fire trucks, Kool-Aid, they're all red, at least sometimes. Why is this not a good simile? Here's why. Words have denotations, but they also have connotations. These are 2 words that we're going to be using a lot, and I want to make sure you have them in your notes. The denotation here is a direct meaning or definition. The connotation is an associated meaning or an indirect meaning. So the denotation of blood would be a liquid that runs through the body. And a red liquid at many points, or at least a liquid we often see as red. Strawberries are red, apples are red, a fighter truck is red, Kool-Aid is red. The denotation for each one of these involves some sort of redness, and in that sense, it does work. Now, the connotation is the associated or indirect meaning. Now, strawberries we see as sweet, a sweet fruit, but blood I think we associate with pain or death. Now, some of you may be like, whoa, 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 I associate blood with life, like giving blood, and that's fine. And in that context, maybe this word works better. I would imagine, though, that strawberries is a better word in terms of its connotation. If you imagine that scene again, and now think of strawberries, she giggled and her face turned red like strawberries. That's a far better word for our simile than blood. Uh, let's come back from this example back to the poem metaphors that we were looking at before. We decided that this may be a pregnant woman. I think that is going to be one of the least important things we actually figure out, though, in terms of deciding what this poem might be suggesting. I'm going to read it again. I'm a riddle in 9 syllables, an elephant, a ponderous house. I'm just going to stop there. An elephant? This woman's describing herself as an elephant, as a ponderous house. If we think about this example of Lucy who giggles and her face turns red like blood, I think we can start to understand this woman somewhat better. I don't think she really loves the way her body is right now. I don't think an elephant is a fantastic way of describing how you feel about the state that you're in. What she does seem to be really excited about is the red fruit, the ivory, and the fine timbers. We've got an exclamation mark here. She's pumped. And these words are good things: red fruit, ivory, fine timbers. What we'll recognize is that the red fruit is going to refer to the melon. The ivory is going to refer to the tusks of the elephant, and the timbers is going to refer to the ponderous house, the wood frame that makes up that ponderous house. There's something good about the elephant, the house, and the melon, but it's the red fruit, the ivory, and the fine timbers. There's something valuable within each of these things. In that context, she goes on. This loaf's big with its yeasty rising. Money, something good, is new minted, also seems good in this fat purse. If she sees herself as a fat purse, but what's inside as money that's new minted, I think we're starting to get a sense, not just that she's pregnant, but how she's feeling about being pregnant. And what she's suggesting about being pregnant, at least about herself, it's that she's a means, a stage, a cow in calf. She says, I've eaten a bag of green apples, boarded the train, there's no getting off. There seems to be a sense of finality here, that there is no going back, there's no getting off. My guess, and I'd love to discuss it with you tomorrow to see if you feel the same way. My guess is that this is a woman who's trying to navigate through feeling terrible about herself, about the state that she's in, not wanting to be there, seeing it as a train ride that can't be stopped, and yet recognizing the beauty that she has inside of her, this ivory, the fine timbers, the money, and the red fruit. This confusion that she's feeling between the beauty that is what she is and the fat purse nature of how she feels is riddle-like. I think there's a reason why she makes this a riddle. I think it's because she recognizes that there is mystery here, that there's confusion between the beauty and the brokenness or the darkness that she's feeling. I want to ask you to look at 2 things on your own. We've been looking at a poem, Stopping by Woods in a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. We've also been looking at My Papa's Waltz by Rothke. I want you to look at two poetic devices, and if you believe that form is content, I want you to answer these two questions. First, for stopping by woods in a snowy evening, Robert Frost at the end of the poem says, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep." He says, "and miles to go before I sleep," twice. He finishes his poem with a repeated sentence. Is there some connection between the form, that poetic device, and the content, what is being suggested by the poem? Second, I'd like you to look at my Papa's Waltz. We've been talking about this waltz, wondering about its beauty, wondering about what might be suggested beneath the surface. And I want you to look at a simile that he uses, that Rothke uses right in his first stanza. He says, "The whiskey on your breath could make a small boy dizzy, but I hung on like death. Such waltzing was not easy." He could have said, "But I hung on like Velcro." Uh, why does he say, "But I hung on like death"? Um, Try to answer those two questions. We're going to have a discussion about those tomorrow.